All right, my Emerald brothers, here's another one in the same vein talking about black boys. This is from the Brookings Institute. A new deal for poor African American and Native American boys. A new deal for poor African American and Native American boys. The U.S. is facing a national crisis. It is virtually guaranteed that if you are poor, male, African American, or Native American, you have a disproportionately high likelihood of ending up in prison, unemployed, or both. In a new paper by my colleague Adam Looney and his co-author Nicholas Turner, intended to analyze post-incarceration employment, the authors find that almost 1/3 of all 30-year-old men who aren't working are either in prison, in jail, or are former prisoners. Boys who grew bottom 10% of the income distribution were 20 times more likely to be in prison on a given day in their early 30s than children born to the top 10% of families. Prisoners are also disproportionately likely to have grown up in socially isolated and segregated neighborhoods with high rates of child poverty and in predominantly African American or American Indian neighborhoods. While these findings are consistent with other research that details the negative impact of childhood poverty on life outcomes, the paper is particularly eloquent about the impact that the combination of childhood poverty, segregation, and race have on African American and Native American boys. Poor African American and Native American boys living in segregated communities of concentrated poverty are highly likely to experience anything but unemployment or incarceration, or both. If we add to this fact that police disproportionately kill African American and Native American men, it is clear that the level of exclusion faced by these men is staggering. No other demographic group has fared as badly, so persistently and for so long. The depth of this crisis is appalling, and so too is our failure to acknowledge and address this crisis. How did we arrive here? It is not accidental that the two demographic groups who have endured the most profound state-sanctioned segregation and deeply inculcated and brutal racism are the two groups today which have the poorest life outcomes. The crisis is therefore the consequence of these two histories. First, the fact that the overwhelming majority of poor African American boys live in segregated and concentrated poverty is a direct result of residential redlining and related governmental practices that emerged during the New Deal era and continued well into the latter half of the 20th century. Native American boys, too, often live in segregated tribal lands that are the result of an ugly and state-sanctioned history of appropriation, discrimination, and neglect that is still alive and well today. Second, to be male, poor, and either African American or Native American is to confront on a daily basis a deeply held racism that exists in every social institution. This experience is a direct result of centuries of vilification and pernicious narratives that have portrayed African Americans and Native Americans as savages. The imagery of Indian savages was particularly prevalent in the 1820s and coincided with the Indian removal policies of the 1830s. And the stereotype of the violent African American male is a long-standing one in the United States. The Jim Crow eugenics ideology sharpened this stereotype with its focus on labeling blacks, particularly black males, as brutes and savage-like, criminal, lewd, hypersexual, or predatory. Today, we know the consequences of socially accepted racism. We know that African Americans and Native Americans are incarcerated at disproportionately higher rates than their white counterparts. We also know that black boys are much more likely to be legally disciplined for infractions at school. We know that poor African American and Native American men are less likely to be employed than their white counterparts. When it is socially acceptable to equate these two demographic groups with criminality and danger, it is acceptable to limit hiring practices for African American and Native American males. Block off neighborhoods, deprive those areas of services and resources, criminalize and murder unsuspecting youth, and continue to see it as justified. The fact that unemployment and incarceration rates are linked to race and childhood poverty, particularly for boys, clearly demands an intentional and focused policy solution. Poor children and poor African American and Native American boys in particular need to be supported and validated from day one through a variety of approaches. How do we know such policies could have life-altering effects? As Looney and Turner point out, poor children with similar profiles to those in their database, but whose families were able to move to higher income neighborhoods, experience much better life outcomes than the young people in their data set. Most importantly, the nature of this crisis requires that we focus policy attention specifically on poor African American and Native American boys, developing something akin to a new deal for them. The elements of that new deal will have to be both of significant depth and breadth. State policies that use Medicaid as an entry point for a variety of social services, school-based wraparound services, housing vouchers for families with young children, a restorative justice program are all examples of initiatives which, if pulled together in a comprehensive, systematic, and nationwide approach, and then aggressively pushed through a responsible set of incentives at the state level, could be a robust first step to addressing the devastating consequences of childhood poverty for these boys. In addition, state economic development policies that are targeted to providing services and jobs in areas of deep concentrated poverty are also worth pursuing. A new deal for poor African American and Native American boys. Anything less would be dishonest. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is from the Brookings Institute, not a left-wing, Jewish-controlled organization. A very right-wing, neoconservative institution. I don't know if they've been looking at the Kerner report. I think that's what's going on. They looked at the Kerner report and they looked at their track record over 50 years, and they found out that basically black males and underserved males, or these identified males, as I would like to call them, have not gotten what they were promised. Black men and black boys didn't get what they were promised under civil rights. I haven't read the Kerner report, but I can just about guarantee you that everything that they outlined, that they said black men and black boys were going to get, they didn't get. Instead, they gave that shit to the white female. And as they said in the Mohawk Conference papers back in 1890, regardless of what white people think, regardless of what white people feel, we're all chained together. We're all chained together. And if you pull black boys and black men down and you waste their productivity, and you waste their brains, and you waste their productive lives, it's going to weigh down on the country. It's going to weigh down on the nation, and it has. You propping up white women at the expense of productive males has cost you. Just like the rest of the world is passing you right now. The military generals said that back 30 years ago. They said that 30 years ago. What you did was a sin. What you did was immoral. And it's going to cost America. America will not come back from this. Can't. It's too late. You cannot reboot a whole society after 50, 60 years and course correct it, because you've lost 3 generations already. You can't catch up. You can hold your ground if possible, but you can't catch up. Now, this is the piece that I want to get to, and this is what pisses me the fuck off. Who are the 2 groups of men, or groups of boys that they're talking about historically? The 2 most oppressed, hunted, and abused groups in America since the founding of this motherfucker, since white people first landed here, are Native Americans, the indigenous peoples, the indigenous males and the Africans that were shipped here. Is it no wonder that they're still hunted and they're still in the same spot, that they can't catch a break? They can't catch a ladder up. What they won't admit, what white America will not admit, is that this shit still exists. And finally, as America is going down into the shithole, they're finally admitting the fucking truth. This stuff has been here. And everybody sees it, including our women on both sides. At least the Native American women will admit that. I'll give them that. They stuck by their men. At least they admit it. They know what their men went through. They know their men were slaughtered. They know that their men are oppressed. They never badmouthed their men. Black women have sold out their boys for butter biscuits. And then come back and step over you. And then when their boys come up, now you're going to feel sorry because you know what you did. That's how come you try to cater to Pookie and Ray Ray, because you know what you did. You know you smooth stepped over your man to get them doggone butter biscuits next to that white woman. You know you smooth stepped over him. And then after you step over him and you put him in this hostile environment, then you're going to corral him and sissify him and try to protect him. And knowing that you can't. And then you spend the rest of your lives trying to make up for it by sending them care packages while they're in prison instead of doing something for them while they were fucking little boys. That pisses me the fuck off. America has to change its ways because it can't afford to lock your ass up in prison no more. That's the only reason they're doing it. If they could afford to keep putting you away in these warehouses, they would. They can't. So now they have to come back and come correct and fix the goddamn problem, which they should have fixed 60 goddamn years ago. That's what these articles with the New York Times and this motherfucker's talking about. They needed to correct that shit 50, 60 years ago. But they thought that the gravy train was going to keep rolling, lock up your problems, and warehouse these guys away. Keep them from competing against your white boys. Keep them out of your neighborhood. Keep them away from your women. Because that's really all it is. That's really all it really is. You want to keep these guys away from your women. That's it. And now your government is screwing you by forcing these men and these boys into your neighborhood. So now you have to mix. So all that shit that you should have done 60 years ago, now you have to do, because now these black guys or these black boys are going to be fucking your daughters. They're going to be marrying your daughters. They're going to be fathers to your children. And now you have to correct them. You got to get them straight. Because not all the men are all in the same pool. And black women are fucking oblivious to this shit. You got boys. You know what's out there for these boys. I get pissed off for my own goddamn daughters. You know what's out there for you, these boys. Because you know what was out there for your dad. You know what's out there for your brother. You know what you're doing to the guys that you're dating. You know what's out here for these boys. And you pretend like this shit don't go on because you don't want to see it. Sometimes this shit disgusts me. I don't like reading stuff like this. Black women playing these goddamn stupid feminist ass games. You are not fucking white women. Your brothers, your uncles, your fathers are not white men. You know your black boys and your black men have bullseyes on their backs. And what do? You hand the white man, you don't hand them the gun, but you hand them the goddamn bullets. And get online and point the finger like, okay, well, it's your fault that you got shot. Let me chill out on this one, man, because I'm going to get upset and I'm going to rant. And I'll be ranting for another 3 hours behind this shit. I don't like dishonesty. If you're going to fuck me and you're going to beat my head in, don't kiss me and tell me it's my fault. Don't give me that shit that this is a fucking level playing field and you know goddamn well it's not. You know goddamn well that there is no fucking level playing field in America. And after 50 years of data, they've proven that shit. over and over and over again. There is no level playing field in America. At the very least, what you could do is tell your goddamn boys that there is no level playing field and remove that goddamn myth. Black women, if you want to go fuck that white man, please go and fuck him. Maybe you'll be better to that mixed child than you are to your black one. Maybe you'll do better for him than you have for the black boys that you had for the last 50, 60 years, because you ain't done a good job. You take your ass to college. My daughter's doing the same goddamn thing. You take your ass to college and you won't help your son with his goddamn homework. Because you don't care about black boys. You don't care about black males. And that's the bottom goddamn line. And black women have to come face to face with that because it's on you. They keep telling me who's at the fucking gate. Who is at the table, at the kitchen table with these black boys? It ain't black men. You were at the gate. You keep saying who's at the gate. No, goddamn it, you were at the gate. You let this shit through. You let that white woman to come into your house and steal your money. Steal the bread from your goddamn table. And then you look at the black man like, how come you didn't stop her? Man, let me turn this thing off, man, because I'm getting ready to get heated. I read this shit, man. I thought it was going to be calm because it's just a little bitty story. Man, I done got heated. You don't see the Native American women talking this shit. Anyway, man, let me jump off of here. This BGS out, man. I see you guys on the network. I got to go get a drink after this shit, man. I really do. Where's my goddamn tequila, man? I need a fucking drink, man. Peace.